everybody, I'm so glad you're here. I am having so much fun and this is so addictive. I've gotten so many comments about the things that I do with my jewelry tools and my beads that are non-jewelry, that are beaded, and especially using them for gifts. And so that's what today's video is going to be a suggestion of. So I will link this video in case you did not see it. I made this little bouquet out of a bunch of individual flowers. So I took check glass tulips, check glass leaves, some glass pearls, some little glass bell flowers, and I used some gold wire and some colored craft wire to like wire wrap each stem. So if you look in the bouquet, you can see that I've done like fancy wire working and twisting. Every stem, no matter how small, even like that little tiny flower, when I brought my wire together, I twisted. So I don't know how well you can see the detail of that. And it's a little bit time consuming, and it's also, you know, a little bit hard on your hand, although I have a very easy way of twisting wire using nylon jaw pliers, which I show in this video. So I will link this because this is just a beautiful bouquet. It turned out great. I did a seed bead bow to tie everything together, and this was glued onto a stick pin finding, and I have worn this to my Bead Society meeting. Everybody loves it. And I love it too, and I loved it so much that I started thinking, what else could I do with my beaded flowers? And so I'm going to show you what my idea is. I bought this little trinket box, and I've left the sticker on it to show you. Now, if you're an American, you know about our discount department stores like Ross, TJ Maxx, Marshalls. This little trinket box was $4.99. In America, we also have dollar stores. I washed it and I have a little paper towel here. We also have dollar stores, several different chains of dollar stores, where for a couple of dollars you can pick up little ceramic boxes and things like that. I'm sorry about the mirror in this. It's like flashing in the camera. But my idea was to make a little group of flowers, a little bouquet, and glue it to the top of a box. And if you're making a gift for a friend that does beading, like this could be her box for her collection of Baroque pearls, which is what I'm going to use mine for, or her box for her favorite check glass shape. Like for me, I love Lucerna bicones, so something like that. And you could even fill it with beads, or you know, some kind of jewelry supplies, fill it with a jump ring assortment, or like something special for your friend if she is a beading friend. And I have some other things out here to play with. And again, I'm really sorry about the mirror. I didn't even think about the mirror in my trinket box, but I have some filigree pieces out here, and I don't even know if I will use them, but I have this assortment. I have this round one here, and I don't know until I make my bouquet if I would like that beneath my bouquet. I'll just use the one that's made up. Or if it's too busy, it kind of looks like a golden doily, you know, to make this really vintage and Victorian and extremely sweet. So I don't know if I'll use them, but it was just an idea. So I'm going to set the flashy mirror aside. And the other thing that I have out here is a few metal bow charms. And this one is intriguing because it's a slider bow, and it was in this assortment. And then I have this one because I was thinking on this bouquet, maybe instead of a seed bead bow, to glue on a metal bow. So I'm going to play with that idea as well. And then I'll just preface this by saying that you can do this entire project with just very inexpensive seed beads. They don't need to be Toho or Miyuki. They don't need to be super uniform for this. And I have mixed because I love the texture. So here's a couple of my flowers. This one kind of looks like Lily of the Valley. It's not in the right color for that, but this one is almost like lavender. My flowers are going to be fantasy flowers. I didn't try to, you know, keep them true to color, but you know, if you're assembling a bouquet, even in real life, you need like some tall things that are the different shapes, and things that are tall that come out of the bouquet, and things that are dense that fill in the bouquet, and usually odd numbers. If you do a little flower arranging like I do, I have done a little bit in my decorating business. And so for this one, I actually used bugle beads to make like the tall, skinny sort of grasses that come out of a bouquet. You know, sometimes the florist will use baby's breath, but another texture, another shape. So on this one, I've created these ones with seed beads and bugle beads and really tiny little crystals. So why I was saying about the seed beads is I'm going to use these Azuki seed beads. This is a little set from Potomac Beads, and that's what I've used here. They are 11-0. And they're not as uniform as Toho and Miyuki, so they're a little less expensive, and you really don't need your beads to be perfectly, you know, uniform for this project. And the other thing that I have here is some Chinese crystals, teeny tiny ones. These are like 2 millimeter, and I have like this teal green and I have this bronzy color, and I've kind of been replacing seed beads for those because, like, let me show you this one. I've started out my stems with one of those little Chinese crystals, so it just gives a little sparkle. And then in the middle of these flowers, again, you could substitute a seed bead here, but I put these little bronze crystals to add a little sparkle. I don't even know if the camera's showing you the sparkle. And so also I've mixed up, if you can see, I've mixed up some check glass leaves with creating my own leaves with those teal green crystals, and I'll show you how to do that. On this one I did like kind of a cluster with the beaded leaves and the little cup flowers. And, you know, I've just kind of mixed it all up. I have a few different leaves here. So I'm going to show you like all the little techniques that I'm using. And then my plan was to just sit here and make a whole bunch of flowers, and I've got a good start, and then I'll create a bow for the top of my little box, which would be such a great gift. Just really, even I thought about I might need to do another one because I like to take my rings off when I'm doing cleaning or dishes, and this would be a nice safe place to put your rings, you know, to give as a gift for someone's rings. Okay, Joey, enough talking. You will need some 28 gauge wire, and I did not try this with 26. It may work. I didn't try it, but I have this little spool from the craft store of 28 gauge wire, and the reason you need 28 gauge wire is your wire is going to pass 2 and 3 times through the bugle beads and through the little 11-0 seed beads or 2 millimeter crystals. Even this little check glass table cut flower, the wire has to go through a couple of times, so you really need super thin wire. And on these little you know, stick-like flowers, same thing. The wire has to loop back down through the bead, so you really need that tiny wire. And before I go into actually making a flower, I wanted to show you this one, because if you wanted to make these flowers as little charms to make sweet little necklaces, I'll show you how I did that, but you can put a loop at the top so you can attach a jump ring and put this like on a little chain. Or my recent video that I did, I'm just going to reach behind me. I just did this, posted this video a couple of days ago. These little beaded decorative jars make fabulous gifts. And if your friends are crafters or bead weavers or beaders, you can put needles, like I'm using this one as a needle case. You can give them some fresh needles. You can give them beads in these beautiful decorated jars. And so I did a video for this idea, but these little check glass flowers would also make really sweet little charms hanging from a jump ring from the top of the jars. So you don't have to cluster them into a bouquet. You can use them for pendants and charms and things like that as well. And what I did, if you'll notice, that I only have 3 bugle beads on the one that is going to be a pendant, where I did 5 to make my stems a little bit longer on the flowers that will go into my bouquet, because when you gather everything together, you need a little bit of length here. The other thing I'll say about the stems is it's a lot less time consuming to use bugle beads as your stem length than it is to do green little 11-0 seed beads, because obviously you have to string all of those seed beads. So if you have a ton to make and time is of the essence, I would do bugle beads for the stem. And even with the twisting is time consuming as well. If you're using like a green craft wire, that's also time consuming. So if you need to speed up the flower making process, bugle beads is a great solution for that. And I've also been really creative, like on this one, I popped a little crystal in between each bugle bead to give my stem some texture and sparkle. Okay, so I'm going to start with, let me see which flower we're going to do first. We'll do the easiest one. These types here are the absolute easiest. The type that is just a flower, one single flower on the stem. So I'm only going to start with about 8 inches of my 26 gauge wire. And for every stem, you start the same way with either a seed bead or a crystal, or something as a kind of a stop bead. So you put that on your wire first, let it drop down to the middle, match up your 2 ends, and pull so that crystal is right in the middle. And then you can either do this with your fingernail. I would advise having out your tiniest pliers for this project as well. So I've been using my Xuron crimping pliers. The Xuron ones are really small, so they work well, even the bent chain nose pliers. But I'm just going to get in here and just make sure that crystal is snug in the middle, and now that my 2 wires are together. So just like that. It's not exactly straight. Actually, this is not a hard project, but like everything, take your time and get it started right. It looks better if your crystal is kind of centered. Okay, just like that. And again, you could do this with seed beads. You don't have to have crystals. I just love the sparkle and kind of up my game a little bit. And then for this one, I'll do a bugle bead, a crystal, and a bugle bead. And this is where you see why we needed the 28 gauge wire, because I'm putting both strands now through the beads, and they go through the crystal, and so far I have not found a single bead that both wires didn't fit through. So a crystal, a bugle bead, I like that texture. And I did one, where is it? I popped a seed bead in between each bugle bead for this stem. So you can really play around with getting different textures, but you can see why I said if time is of a factor for you, that stringing little crystals or seed beads obviously takes more time than the bugle beads. So I've done 5 bugle beads basically for all of my stems, and here's where you have to decide if you want to thread on a leaf and then your flower, or if you want to do no leaf. I think on this first one I'm going to show you guys how to do the beaded leaf. So I'm going to separate the 2 wires and put my flower on one wire, and then I'm going to put a bead at the top, so it can be a tiny little crystal or seed bead, but essentially that is your stop bead. And then I'm going to skip over that bead and go back down through the flower and come back to the bottom. And if you can, like on this one I'm going to cut this off. So I'm going to see if I can run it back down through my bugle bead. And here's where you can see why you really need the 28 gauge wire, because this will be the 3rd wire going through my bugle beads. You just have to, and it bends easily when you're trying to push it through. So you don't want to kink your wire if possible. For this wire here that's run through the bugle bead, I can snip that right there if I want to, or I can make a leaf. And since I have the space there, I'm going to make a leaf. So I'm going to take an odd number of my crystals. I've been doing either 7 or 9, so I did 9 on this one. And then you're just going to take this wire and go this, you're going to have to go down through the crystal and through, or through the next, either the next crystal or the next bugle bead. You won't be able to go up because there's already 3 wires going through that bugle bead. Keeping your wire nice and straight and smooth is essential to really having an easy time feeding your wire back down through. If it gets bent, when it's straight and smooth, it just comes right out really easily. So without kinking, I'm just going to get that petal into place, get a hold of it with my pliers, and just pull, gently pull, 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 pull. Give it another little tug. There we go. And so it makes like a little leaf, and I'm just gonna gently open that out and give it another little tug. So I'm going to snip this off right here. It's nice and secure inside that bugle bead. And I'm going to come to the other wire that's hanging out and do another leaf coming beneath my flower. And I'm just going to fold this. And now on this one, my flower is pretty full because there are 2 wires going down through the flower, and this bugle bead already has a bead going through it. So I'm going to just wrap my wire on this one. So as you design your flowers, like that's what I've found. I'm putting one little twist here where I made that. That's a method, if you know anything about the French beaded flowers, twisting the wire gently. So that takes up a little space, but with such fine gauge wire, you want to be super careful that you don't snap your wire. But 1 or 2 twists is usually, it usually, accepts that with no problem. So since I can't go back down through or up through a bead, I'm going to come right here and just pull this tight around the base of my flower, get my thumb and my finger over it, and I'm just going to do a few wraps around my flower. And put a little twist in my leaf just to tighten everything up, and can go ahead and use up my wire and just put a few little wraps beneath my flower. Okay, so that little guy is done. Off and tuck it. Let's do one of the multi flowers next. So you always start the same way. Since I'm going to be adding 3 flowers on, I will start with about 12 inches of the wire. And this time I'll start with a bronze crystal. Okay, so it looks like that, and I'm going to take one of the wires and let's do a purple. I'm going to put one of these purple bell flowers on and pop a crystal in the middle, and then run my wire down through the bell flower only. And without kinking it, get it tight. So pull the flower down to the stem and pull, 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 pull. Pull that nice and tight. My first flower is on. And now I'm going to take that same wire and put another bell flower and pop another crystal in the middle. And same thing, go back down through the flower. And without kinking, you can kind of hold on to the crystal, or if you're using a seed bead works well too. And for me, I just don't have a lot of strength in my hands, so I use my nylon jaw pliers and just pull. And now I can wrap that around a couple of times, just a couple wraps around the base to secure it. And I'll go to the other wire and get another bellflower and do the same thing. From here you can decide if you want to do a beaded leaf, but I think I'm going to get let's see, what have I done? I'm gonna do something different. I'll do one of these leaves, and so I'm going to pop a leaf on. In fact, I'm going to bring these together and pop a leaf on both wires and just pull it right down to my flowers. And you can like adjust your flowers into a cluster or make them a little bit flatter. And then I'm going to bring these wires around and just do a couple of neat wraps right around the back. And whoops, that's not a cutter. And snip. You just want to gently tuck. So that's how you get your multiple blooms on a single stem. Aren't they sweet? It looks like a little old-fashioned violet bouquet, tussy mussy. It's so sweet. Okay, let's do one of these. This is a really fun one to do. So I'm going to grab some seed beads. Okay, I'm just going to put a couple little piles of seed beads out here, and I'm going to start with about another 12 to 14 inches of my wire. And the stem is always the same. I'll start with a green seed bead and match up my ends and pull and just get that right in the center of the wire. And for this stem, I'll do a bugle bead, a seed bead, a bugle bead. So I design my stems differently each time as well. It's amazing. Both wires go very easily through the bugle beads and through the seed beads because it's wire, but it's almost like thread. But if you don't pinch, see what's happening here? If you don't pinch that bottom loop well enough, your bugle bead or your next bead doesn't go all the way down to your stop bead. So I'm going to get in there. There we go. Get in there and pinch it together. So that's better. Okay, so my stem is started, and you know the beautiful thing about a wildflower bouquet is you can really mix everything up because they're wildflowers and fantasy flowers. But if you wanted to do your color story like all pink or all lilac, you know, that would also be really pretty. If you like reds and oranges, that would be really pretty. But I did kind of a wildflower in muted tones. So on this one, I'm going to switch. We're going to make this flower that looks a little bit like lavender, but I'm going to switch to this hot pink bead. So to start off with, I'm going to put 3 beads on both wires, 3 hot pink beads on both wires, and let those drop down. And then I'm going to separate my wires, and I'm going to pick up a bead on each side. One on the right hand wire, one on the left hand wire, and let those drop down just like that. Focus, camera. Is it focusing? Okay. And then it doesn't matter which side, but I'm going to pick up a bead. I'll do it, I'm right-handed, so I'll pick up one on the right side, and then I'm going to take my left wire and pass it through from the left to the right. So I have a wire, let me pull it. I have a wire coming out each side of the bead like that. And here you just really want to take your time and not kink your wire and keep your bead centered. And when you start getting down near your other beads, you can start to pull. If your wire is too, tightening up too much, you can spread it open. The first one is always the hardest to get in on this pattern, and then they start to go in a little bit more easily. Okay, so it looks like that, and we're going to repeat. Pick up one bead on the right, one bead on the left, let those drop down, pick up a bead on the right, pass the left wire through it, and pull it down. So we're looking like that, and you continue like that, picking up a bead on the right, a bead on the left, until your little reed or your little lavender, whatever we're calling it, is the length you want. So I'll show you this one again. That's that. I did that one about that long. I just kept holding it up, holding these up to my other flowers to kind of see the length that I wanted. Okay, this is my last one, and this one is really easy to finish off. On your last one, you're just going to take the right hand wire and go down through the last right hand seed bead and just pull. And the same thing, take the left hand wire and go down through the last left hand seed bead, and then just trim them off really closely. And if you need to come back in and tuck the wire, you don't want it to be sharp, so if you need to tuck it, you can tuck it. And you can like bend it a little bit and shape it so that it kind of looks like lavender. Isn't it pretty? And then let's do this one, because this one is similar but not quite the same, and you get that kind of the way a lily of the valley or like a bluebell kind of curves. So I'm going to take another probably 10 inches for this one. And as always, the stems always start out the same with a bead at the bottom. And for this one, it starts the same as the lavender one. I'm going to put 3 seed beads on both wires of my color. I switched colors. And just bring those down to the stem. And now I'm going to take one wire. I'm right-handed, so I always pick the right side. And I'm going to pick up a seed bead, and then I'm going to curve this down toward the stem and come up through the last seed bead that's on both wires. So just like that. Just making a loop and pull really tight, and it gives you that little bead on the kind of on the outside of the stem. Pull as tight as you can. And then you're going to bring both wires back together again and put 3 more on both wires. And then you're going to take your shorter wire and pick up another seed bead, and you could do an alternate color here if you wanted to. I've been sticking with the same color, but I'm going to make a loop downward toward my stem and put that wire through the last seed bead that I added on both. Wiggle it up through there, push everything down nice and tight, and tug. So it's looking like that. Bring both wires together again, 3 more seed beads, and you just continue until you get the length you want. So on this one, I did a few twists, and if you use your nylon jaw pliers and just hold on to the wire and twist your little flower just a little bit. And then I gave myself just a tiny bit of length. And then you can either, I made like a coil, but you could also do a spiral. And I just used the twisted wire and just like coiled right down to the top of my flower. And it sort of looks like a little, you know, like a little bud. Turn it this way and give it just a little, give it a little bend. They look so pretty, like in the bouquet. Okay, these are pretty much the same. These are the same that I showed you, and it's the same technique for making the loops if you want to do your whole flower out of seed beads. So let's do one of those, and I'll just show you, like if you want to do a 5-petal flower. It's so lovely to mix in the seed bead or tiny crystal flowers with the check glass table cut flowers or bell flowers. Like, to me, the more textures you can get in your bouquet, in your flowers, the prettier it is. So for this one, I'm going to start with a crystal on the bottom of the stem. So I'm going to show you how to do this. You basically already know how to do this because this is the same technique that we did with making the little loopy leaves. So for this one, my stem, I designed it with a bugle bead, 3 crystals, a bugle bead, 3 crystals, and just to make the stem a little bit fancier on this. And so I'm going to separate my 2 wires now, and I'm going to do maybe 11 seed beads. So the more seed beads that you thread on, the bigger your flower will be, obviously. So this one is 11 or 13, I can't remember, but I'm gonna start with 11 and see how I like the size of my flower. Let's see what that looks like. Compared, this one was a little bit bigger. I think I'm gonna like the 11. So then all I'm gonna do is the same thing we did before, is run that wire back down through the first seed bead that was added and give that a pull and hold on to everything without kinking, and the first little loop is in there. And then I'm going to do that again on this same wire, 11 seed beads, and same thing, I'm going to run the wire back through the first seed bead on that strand and tug. And I'll switch over to this wire, so you can do as many loops as you want. I like odd numbers, so I'm going to go for 5. So you could stop there. That's with this design. Like if you wanted to do 3 and have your flower just kind of flat like that, you could do that, and that could be one of your flowers. But I'm going to go for 5, so I'm going to do another one on this wire and then switch back to this wire and then connect them all and do some hand sculpting to form it into a more dimensional flower like I did on this one. My camera isn't focusing. So you can like make them flat like a fan, or you know, make it like a bud. Okay, so like I have 5 done, and so as you see, like I could leave this flat if I wanted to, but I'm gonna bring my 2 wire ends around and just secure it. So a little twist like that, and bring it back around to the front so I can hide it on the inside. Just gonna snip right there. And now I'm going to hand sculpt this into a more dimensional flower. So you can do it like that. You can bring it up into like a bud, or like almost like a little beaded tulip. I like that a lot. And I could have, I want to tuck this wire a little bit. I could have used that wire to obviously add a leaf, but I've added leaves to a lot of my pieces. And so yeah, this one was 13 beads per loop, and this one was 11. So you get a lot smaller flower, obviously, with smaller beads. So this type is really, really the easiest to do. And I've already prepared a stem, and I did all seed beads on this one. And so I'm just going to pop on a flower on both wires. And on both wires, I'll put a crystal. Then I'm going to separate the wires and go back down through the flower with them. Both of them are going to do that, but individually. So that one first, and pull. And then same thing with this one over the other side of the crystal, and back down through the flower and pull. And so now both my wires are here. And to trim off, you can feed one back down through your seed beads. And I may do that, but I'm going to go ahead and add a leaf on this one. So I'm going to put one of my check glass leaves. I like to keep that wire there, because then if I want to use it for wraps to kind of secure things, I can do that. But I'm going to get this wire, this one, to go down through a few seed beads. I'm just going to pull it nice and snug. And now, again, if I wanted to thread some little green crystals and make another little leaf here, I could. But my bouquet is getting pretty full, so I think I'm going to come right there and snip that one off. And then with this one that I saved out, just going to grab it here and just get a couple of wraps just to hold my leaf in place. So I have a lot of flowers made here. Let's, I'm going to do one more just to show you this type where you would have a loop at the top if you didn't want to put your flowers in a bouquet. So let me choose one that's really pretty. Let's do one of these tulips. Okay, so I have my stem started, and I'm going to pop on one of these leaves on both strands, and then pop on my tulip just right down to my leaf. And then I started my, I'm gonna push everything down. I started my stem on this one with one of the bronze crystals, so that's what I'm going to put on the top here. Wires through the crystal. And now I'm going to come right to the top and do a wire wrapped loop. So I'm grabbing both wires, giving that a bend, and I'm going to do, you know, a loop that's large enough that I can fit a jump ring through and make a pendant out of this. Rotate my pliers. I'm just treating the two wires as if it was one, but since this is 28 gauge wire, I am going to leave it on my round nose pliers and wrap. Just get that like a chunky bail. Okay, that should be good. Take my pliers away and trim and tuck, just like we would with anything else with wire. And so, like I said, that's such a sweet little pendant, or as an embellishment, like instead of a tassel on the jars. So I have a couple of those with loops at the top. Okay, I am going to clean up my mess a little bit and decide on kind of pull together my bouquet, what I want for the top of my box. So I'm putting my taller things to the back, and I'm just kind of placing my flowers by color. The cool thing is these are all on wire, so I can, you know, like move them around after they are secured. Everything is on a little wire. And I do have, you could use the same wire, but I have a piece of 26 gauge gold wire, my soft flex wire. And so once I get my pieces in here, I may not use everything that I made. It's fine. I don't mind having extra flowers. Honestly, you could do just like 3 flowers. It doesn't have to be really full, but okay. That's about how it's going to be. I'll tweak everything when I'm done, but I'm going to take my wire and get in here and just gather up my bouquet. It's this part is tricky because you only have 2 hands. If you have a helper, you can get them to help you, but I don't. So I'm going to just do my best. Yeah, I'm just laying it on my mat, so my mat is like a third hand, and I'm just getting a little twist in there. You know, I want it tight, but I don't want it unbelievably tight, because I still want to come in and, you know, move everything around and tweak my flowers, like, you know, just as if I were arranging real flower bouquet. Okay, I am ready to snip these wires off the back. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm I'm going to bring in my filigree and see if I want a filigree. Okay, I decided on this filigree, so I'm going to get my E6000 glue in here, and I'm going to just put a little dollop on the back of this. That should be enough. And I'm just going to line it up with this little closure on the front of the box, and just line it up. Okay. And I'm going to come to the back of my bouquet and put some E6000 just right up the back of my bouquet. Just on everything, on the wire, on everything. And I'm very carefully going to lay that right in the middle of my filigree. So here's where I am going to have to be patient, because E6000 glue takes about 30 minutes initially to set up, and it really takes overnight to dry completely. And so I need to let this dry so that my filigree stays straight and my bouquet stays straight on the filigree, and then I can come back and you know, arrange a little bit more, pull out my flowers a little bit more. But I think this is going to be such a wonderful little box for beads or special rings like my bead woven rings. And I think it would make a fabulous gift. And you know, you don't have to do them as elaborate as I've done this. If you just did 3, like if you choose 3, of course not with a loop on it, but you could just do like 3 little flowers, and you can even tie it with a piece of silk or satin, and you know, like just do a really simple little cluster of flowers. And so the other thing I have to decide, which I won't be able to do it until everything is dry, but I have to decide if I want to do like a little gold bow like that. I have this one. So when this is dry, so you can see how much it's still moving. But when this is dry, I'll come back and decide which little bow. I'll decide which little bow I want. If I want an antique brass one, I would cut the loop off of this one if I decided on that one. So I have my little bows here, and it's just going to be a second for you. When this dries, I'll come back and show you the finishing touch. It's been a little over an hour, so this is pretty stable. It's not fully dry. Like I said, the E6000 really needs overnight to dry, and I just love it. I love the fact that the box I found has this mirror on the bottom, and I will put some better pictures up and try to get rid of the glare of the camera lens. But the filigree base doesn't show that much on the top, but through the glass you see that mirror image of it, and I love when I open the box that I have that filigree showing through. I mean, I think that a ceramic box would be another lovely option for this idea. And I've been sitting here playing with all my different bows. I feel like this one is really cute, but I feel like it's a little dark. And then I love this one, but I feel like this one might be a little small. And so I'm kind of leaning towards this one right here. But before I glue that one on, I just wanted to say like some of the ideas. I'm going to keep this one for myself because I really wanted to make one of these for my Baroque pearl collection. But if you are doing a gift for someone, you could fill this with beautiful chocolates like the Ferrero Rocher, or, you know, even Hershey's Kisses, honestly. But these are fancy tea forte tea bags, so you could like put a couple of fancy tea things inside if you have a glass box. If you're giving this to somebody who works at a desk, beautiful like gold paper clips or even the enamel colored ones would be so pretty. Like you could fill this with any number of things, from chocolates to, you know, just any number of things. But I am going to put beads in mine, and I suspect that many of you that watch me are thinking beads as well. So I'm going to get my E6000 glue back in here, and I'm going to just, you know, add a little glue right here to the top of my wire that is securing, just a dollop, just like a little, it's more glue than I normally use, but you know, I want to be able to handle this. And these bows are actually beads that I found at the craft store. They have a hole going through the top, but I'll link a couple of bow assortments if you are in need of bows. And you can always create, like if I were to do a bow like I did for this one, I would have done it before I adhered this down. So what I did on this one is I wrapped my bouquet with plain wire and just got it into place, and then I made this bow in my hand on another wire and then just embellished just right on the top. So as I said earlier, I will link this video if you missed this, and you can even fast forward, you know, and see how I did the bow. But these are more flower techniques, and it's really fun to combine like the wire stems with the beaded stems, and you know, like mix in all the different flowers and make a really wildflower bouquet. So I'm just going to like get this just the way that I want and let this set up for another hour, and I will put some pictures at the end. Hopefully I can get rid of the glare, so that, because I realize I'm looking in the camera lens and I'm realizing that mostly what you're seeing is flashes of light. So I'll do my best to remedy that with better photographs. And I thank you so much for watching. I hope this gave you an idea. I mean, gift this to yourself, which is what I'm doing. But if you're going to sit and make some flowers, just put on a movie, make a cup of tea or a glass of wine, and sit and make a bunch of flowers, and then you can assemble them. I did my bouquet really full, but as I said, if you have a lot of gifts to make and you love this idea, you can do either just 3 or 5 flowers per box and not make it quite so full. Honestly, even these cluster flowers, you could just do 1 per box and glue it on the top. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments how you like configured this, and if you were inspired by this, and if it's something you feel like it's easy enough for you to try. I'd really love to hear from all of you. And I thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll take a moment to give my video a thumbs up or a hype, and please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit the notification that says all where the bell is, so that you don't miss my other videos that are coming. I have some more ideas. So thanks a lot, everybody. See you in the next video.